Welcome back to Relevant Marketing. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what I find to be one of the biggest misconceptions about marketing and advertising from the perspective of small business owners. And I guarantee you that if you watch this video and you heed this advice and you never come back to this channel again for some reason, but you remember what I say here, you're going to be in a better spot than a lot of your competitors, because this is one of those critical pieces that if you mess it up early on, it's just going to haunt you for the rest of your business days. And if you never learn to correct this problem, you're just always fighting an uphill battle. So listen carefully, stick with me here. I'm going to try and make it interesting and explain it as best I can. But this is the thing that I hear most often when I start asking questions, and it's something that is so dangerous that not understanding this is detrimental in a massive way. So here we go. So what we're going to be talking about is target markets, and more precisely who your target market is. So on numerous occasions when I ask someone who their target market is, I often am given a very common response, and the response goes something like this. Now you could change out some of these words, use different descriptors, but basic principle is this. Well, who we would like to target is people who have a lot of money, because they'll be able to spend more on our product. And it sounds logical. Obviously people with lots of money would be able to spend lots of money on whatever you're trying to sell, but it kind of misses the point. Now I don't know where the business book is where this is written, but you don't get to pick your own target market. Your target market is defined by the product or service that you sell. So if you are a company that sells plumbing fixtures, your target market, in a very broad and general sense, is going to be plumbers. It's not going to be wealthy industrialists, because wealthy industrialists don't buy plumbing fixtures. They hire a plumber who buys the fixture, right? It's pretty simple. But then you have to break it down. So what kind of plumbers are the plumbers that I'm talking to? And you build a whole segment of questions that really defines who those people are. Now this is a really important thing to know, because knowing that you don't get to pick who you market to allows you to go back in and reevaluate the type of messages that you're sending. So if you thought that you're advertising to very wealthy people and you focused all your advertising there, but you realize, well, I sell cleaning supplies or I sell plumbing and I actually need to talk to janitorial people or I need to talk to plumbers, then suddenly your advertising becomes much more successful. This means you don't have to spend any more money, you just retarget the messages of your advertising. Now if you've ever seen advertising that seems to have a really insightful message, something that really hits you and you think, man, how did that creative guy come up with that? Well, that is a demonstration of a person who really understands their target market. They understand them down to such a fine detail that they know what the in-jokes are in that market. So likely the ads that you found very inspiring were because they understood you as a target market very well, and they understood what would really appeal to you, what would really resonate with your thinking and the way you live and the way you purchase. That's why you found them insightful. So if you want to be able to advertise in the same way, then you have to really define who your target market is as well. Now you do that by answering the questions simply at first, and then figuring out what are the more complex questions that you can spool off of those, and then you look at those questions and you see if you can break them down further. And you basically keep asking those questions, sharper and sharper, finer and finer detail, until you have a really clear picture of whoever John or Jane Doe is that you'll be trying to sell to. Now, if you're already in business, you might look around the store that you're selling from, or you might look at your current customer base and say, okay, what kind of common traits do these people seem to have? Because obviously I'm attracting people with these traits. But if you're going into business for the first time and you don't have any sort of foundation yet, then you might consider calling up some sort of statistical research house. And there's businesses, there's companies all over Canada and the United States, depending on where you are, well, all over the world really, and they specialize in tracking statistics, and they specialize in figuring out demographics and political affiliation and anything you'd want to know about your target market. And you basically pick a package that says define it for this many dollars and tell me everything you can learn for that. And they'll start building questionnaires that are very wisely worded. Now, wisely or well-worded questions are particularly important because the other thing that I often see is that business owners who do understand that you do not get to pick your target market will put out surveys to try and define their target market, but they will weight their questions because they would like to have a particular market. They feel like, I'd be more successful if I sold to these particular people, but instead of asking a question that was equally balanced for, say, a yes or no answer, and yes or no questions are good questions to ask because it's very easy to mark the tallies down at the end and determine, that it was a positive response or a negative response. So you weight that question. Now suddenly you only get the answer back that you were hoping to get, and you still don't really know what your questionnaire. It hasn't benefited you. You don't have any more information than you had before. And in fact, you might now be using a flawed data set to create your ads or your marketing or to do further research, and you've just created a problem down the line where you've got all this corrupted data and it sounds good to you and it might sound good to the other people in your company. They may never know that that weighted question is now going to cause a huge amount of problems, and your marketing will be kind of askew. It's not going to be really precisely targeted to who it should because that weighted question was in there. And you tend to build these questions in pyramids, right? So you start with broader, and then you start finding out answers, and you start to ask questions off based on those answers, and you really break those down. And you can go as far as you either have time or money if you're hiring somebody. If you're doing it yourself, it's time. And ask as many questions to as many different people as possible, and you try to split that up amongst all the people that you see. You try to do that as randomly as possible to remove any kind of weighting. That is critically important to make sure that if you write questionnaires, if you do surveys, that you make sure that those questions are very well balanced, and try to ask questions where things are either rated on a scale, say, how did you like your experience in my store? 1 to 5. Okay, I really loved it 5. I really hated it 1. Do you like hard candy or do you like chocolate? Yes or no? Yes, I like chocolate. No, I don't like hard candy if you're, say, a sweet shop. Then you have these very clear data points that you can then use to inform maybe not only just your marketing, but how you purchase and the types of items that are in your shop. So knowing your target market is the single most critical foundational piece of any advertising. If you hire somebody to come and work for you and you can answer that question clearly with confident, good data, the result of whatever they produce for you is going to be much, much better. I'm going to cover the details of targeting marketing more in depth in a future video, but for now the important thing to remember is you don't get to choose your own target market. If you've fallen prey to this trap, change your processes now. Reevaluate, start a new way, figure out a new way of sort of talking to the people you might be interviewing, talking to the people that you might be selling to. And if you're starting a new business and you have a business plan going where you assumed a bunch of things and you haven't done any research, put a little bit of money towards a survey company. They usually can start off at fairly reasonable rates, a couple of $1,000, and I know that sounds big, but this will be the best money you ever spend. And go out there and find out who your target market actually might be, because it's very, very critical. And if that's the only thing you take away from this channel and you never come back here again, then you're going to be leaps and bounds ahead of people that have missed this message. All right? So, my name is Brandon. Thank you for sticking with me through the end of this. I hope you're enjoying the videos in the Relevant Marketing series, and we'll be back with more detail on this and other marketing, advertising, and design related topics